Hello! In today's episode of Business Update, we'll be talking about NBA's plan to expand the regular season by adding a mid-season tournament. Is this a good strategy? We'll talk about that. Next, we have Sony. The company has recently acquired game publisher Housemarque, known for developing the game Returnal. So why have they acquired this company? Is it just a another step for acquiring multiple companies? Why are they doing this? Talk about that later. Next, we have our government who is planning to expand or increase by adding more roads, major roads, to decongest the heavy traffic from our metro by constructing a road that connects North Luzon Expressway going to Novaliches. So stay tuned for that one. And lastly, we'll be talking about Panasonic's long-term partnership with Tesla, the electric vehicle manufacturer, is now severed. Why did that happen? What's going to happen? Stay tuned. So, as I mentioned, talking of the NBA's plan to generate more revenue to make it even more profitable than what they're earning. Obviously, it's lagging behind compared to other major leagues from the not the national, the MLB, Major League Baseball, or even the National Football League or American football as they call it. Obviously, trying to gain more profit or viewership is one of their key drivers. Now, how do they entice more viewership? Well, they're planning to add a mid-season tournament, according to CNBC.com. So the NBA wants to add a mid-season tourney or tournament, but it needs incentives, which is reasonable enough. So let's take a closer look. So obviously, adding a mid-season tournament sounds easy enough to generate more viewership, more revenue. But the problem here is obviously what's the incentive for players and what's the incentive for viewers to watch it. Now, typically, they're now in the middle of the playoffs or actually the championship already between the Bucks and Phoenix, right? So the question is, why would people spend a lot or invest a lot of time in the mid-season tournament? And typically, typically when the mid-season rolls around, typically around February, it used to have or currently presents the All-Star weekend or All-Star game, which a lot of people stay tuned. It's a sort of a break mid-season, so they provide an entertainment of show to showcase, the rookies, having the three-point shootout, having the slam dunk competition, and then the main game, the All-Star game itself. Now, adding a tourney within the season, is that beneficial for players? And obviously, the incentives has to be beneficial for both the viewers and for the players or even the team, so that they will be enticed to participate. And what's the benefit, especially if you're a team, let's say you're planning to win a championship, is the incentive enough for you to play in, or maybe this is just like what they incorporated, like the play-in tournament before the start of the playoffs? I think that it makes more compelling case, right? But we'll see here. Anyway, so the push for the mid-season tournament is one of their key considerations moving forward. So more incentives is necessary to make it work for viewers, for the teams, and for the league itself, right? So what's in it for us as viewers? Now, obviously, they want to compare it like international soccer leagues. So they have that. So it gives you you are invited. If a team does well, you are invited to participate in this season. The question is, what would be the benefit here? Now, is money going to be enough? Obviously, players already paid millions of dollars, so I don't know, money would be enough. And is it the prestige here? Or again, I think if it's going to benefit the team, maybe whether it's draft pick, I think they mentioned here in the article, or maybe a seeding position, a guaranteed position in the playoffs if you were to do well mid-season. I think that would be a compelling case here. Now, they're going to do a test run for this idea with the WNBA for its 25th anniversary and calling it the Commissioner's Cup in season. Now, this is my personal opinion. I think the WNBA only exists here for the sole purpose for NBA to test any programs or ideas they want to test rather than implement it right away in the NBA itself, they would test it in other leagues. In this case, the WNBA. Now, whether it's going to work out, it's a case to case basis. So there's still a lot of questions that needed to be answered here. Anyway, so one of the key considerations for the NBA is they're going to use the money to incentivize the team and staff players. But at the end of the day, it's all about the players, right? If they earn a substantial revenue or salary in this case, so making it a rewards based business model will drive the players to compete. Maybe, maybe not. If you're the Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, LeBron James, 40 million, how are you going to incentivize them? Millions of dollars? It's going to take a lot of convincing. It has to be more than just money. And the question is, what will it take for people like us to watch the game? Now, for me, I'm happy with the concept of the All-Star game as it is. If you're going to add a tournament and there's no significance or weight behind it, unless there's going to be an impact later on with the playoffs, then I don't see the point. So it depends on what they're planning to do here. Are they going to pattern it similar to how the National Football League does, or the NFL? And take note, in the NFL, it's only there's no mid-season break or all-star game. They do it at the end of the season, which is kind of meaningless if you think about it. So that's why the all-star game for the NBA is tremendous, because you get to see who are the best players within that season, and you get to see them play live if you're watching it live in the venue, or watching it at your TV sets at home. So question is, what would it take for the team to participate in such a tournament of sorts? So one suggestion is by adding a draft pick here. Now, draft pick can only work if it's a high draft pick. So let's say if a team does really well mid-tournament, can they get a lottery ticket between 1 to 5? Obviously, it would be randomized. So giving them a chance of getting the number one lottery pick would be tremendous. I think that would convince many teams to do well mid-season, not just what do you call this? If they're the overall number one seed, for the entire league year. Now, how it works, it would be complicated. Now, obviously, using draft pick to get assets, not just the best players in the draft during the draft, but also you can trade it if you're trying to acquire veteran players or different superstar players. I think the draft pick would be significant. And another suggestion here is using an elimination style in the regular season. Now, I don't know if that would work. Obviously, for the NBA, they have 41 home games and 41 away games. So it generates a lot of revenue for the home team. So it's important that you expand it. But I think, with the last article we discussed regarding LeBron James complaining about the high frequency of injuries, which is part of the game. To mitigate that, I think grouping together or consecutive games within the same city would be tremendous, rather than following like how MLB does their schedule. Let's say the New York teams, New York Mets and New York Yankees, are competing in the same area, so they can fight 3-4 games consecutively, which would be beneficial, less travel. And maybe for the NBA to, as mentioned, I think they've been trying to find a way. Can they reduce the number of back-to-back games so that it lessens the risk of getting injured here? So that's the thing that needs to be considered here. And obviously, for the NBA, they're betting that patience is the main aspect here. That at the end of the day, how can it benefit the league, the players, the viewers itself? Because at the end of the day, if there's no viewers watching the game, it won't make sense here. So how they configure it, long term, whether it's an all-star game or a play-in tournament or mid-season tournament, only time can tell. Anyway, next we have Sony, the big company that that's recently launched the PlayStation 5 console. At their heels, Microsoft has been chipping away in terms of their changing their business platform in a sense, totally different from Sony by providing value to gamers by providing the Game Pass. In the case of Sony, they've been focused more on the exclusive games, and with recent reports of how they are, it just goes to show you money is the priority at the end of the day, not you know, giving the benefit of doubt for consumers that they've been supporting your platform for several years and decades, and this is what you get from like with the games for the Ghost of Tsushima. In order to upgrade from your PS4 to your PS5, you have to pay a fee. Should that be given as a free update rather than a separate fee for whatever the $10 or $20 you're supposed to pay here? But anyway, before I veer away. So speaking of Sony, why is are they acquiring more gaming publishers? Obviously, Microsoft has been busy this past few weeks, months, or the last year by acquiring big publishers to bolster their library so that they could compete with the likes of Sony. Now, obviously, Sony is still a big company with a lot of users here, and question here is, what are they going to do about it? Are they just going to sit back and relax? Anyway, so they've already acquired one such company here. You have Housemarque, which is the makers of Returnal. If you've played the game, so it's one of the latest games that they've launched, and it's an interesting one. So is it just the only company that they plan to acquire? Well, they also plan to acquire Bluepoint Games, which is the studio that made the Demon Souls remaster, which I played that game, so I was able to finish it, but I haven't played the remaster. But you know, so question here is it enough to, for me, I'm considering even purchasing an Xbox game for the first time, because if many more games are being pirated in the other platform and Sony's doing nothing, and with the way how they deal with their consumers or their gamers by charging more for a game rather than just giving an update, I don't know. As time passes by, is it more reasonable? Is it more practical to invest in the Sony ecosystem with the games that they're offering, even if it's exclusive? They used to own the Elder Scrolls series. Now it's already obviously in the other platform in Microsoft. So which platforms, which big game publishers would remain, or should Sony acquire them outright? Right? Anyway, so according to the co-founder of Housemarque, director Ilari Kitenen, he mentions here, where was it? Where was the statement there? There you go. So the acquisition obviously benefits the gaming publisher here, so it gives the studio a clear future and stable opportunity to continue delivering on gameplay critic approaches while experimenting with new methods of narrative and pushing the boundaries of this modern art form. Now, obviously, this benefits publishers that have been acquired by Sony to create better games. Obviously, there's a downside to it, that there's more pressure to it, and obviously, if they can do the same type of support for big publisher as well as for independent developers, which is, with the latest news, there have been not just rumors, but independent developers have been complaining about how Sony has been dealing with their partners here, which is technically their partner. If they can find one independent developers that can make a big game, like one independent games that I played before is Hollow Knight, that would be tremendous. Won't that be to their benefit to work with them rather than make it harder for them? It was mentioned, I think they should be able to control the platform in terms of providing sale, reducing the price so that it would entice more users to purchase the games. But no, you have to jump hoops, make it difficult for developers to be able to apply for such discounts here. Anyway, so going back here, so obviously the partnership here is beneficial for both parties, and question is, what will Sony continue to do, or in the future will just acquire a company here and there, and let big publishers like Bethesda, be acquired by the competing company here. And obviously, there are still a lot of gaming publishers that they need to focus on. You have Naughty Dogs, just to name a few. And question is it an arms race here between the two companies here? Well, according to Halt's, who is what's his position here? According to Sony, he mentions that it's not an arms race here. So maybe they should be concerned. Sometimes like Sony, they can be too complacent in their position in the marketplace, knowing they're number one, but they used to lag behind, right? Think about when they started in PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, and then the release of PlayStation 3 was a debacle, right? By charging too much, by not offering value to their customers. And they seem to be on that track again, especially for big companies that became too big and too good for themselves, focusing more on profit rather than taking care of your gamers situation. Then you also have Cyberpunk, CD Project Red, wasting the good relationship that they had with their players or the gamers here. Anyway, we'll see how that pans. Anyway, going to some local news. Regarding the expansion of building more roads for the public, not just for public but for businesses to utilize, since obviously in the metro here in the country, especially in Metro Manila, if you've been living here for several decades, traffic is a big problem with the narrow roads, poor maintained roads, and so forth. Now, the government is planning to expand it by connecting a 2-kilometer road between the North Luzon Expressway and Novaliches. Now, obviously, North Luzon is the gateway to the Luzon area in the country here. And obviously, if you need to go to the port, you need the main road, which is already constructed. Now, how about going to the south? You have the connection between the NLEX highway and the SLEX highway. Now, another major city is going to be connected, which is Novaliches area here. And creating this network would be tremendous for business, especially if you're delivering goods and services here. So let's see here. Yeah, so the 2-kilometer road connecting from Mindanao Avenue Toll Plaza to Quirino Highway in Novaliches here. So the 2-kilometer would be tremendous, I think, which is now in the works here. So the company or the corporation, NLEX Corporation, announced that they're going to construct the new expressway, which is set to begin later this year, which is good. But problem is it's going to create more traffic for the meantime. I've experienced with the project for connecting the North and South Luzon Expressway here. I do hope they can do it more quickly. I think when constructing, how come in other nations, developed nations, the goal is to fast track the project to finish it as early as possible rather than whoever can pay the cheapest, right? Anyway, obviously the goal of this network or this 2-kilometer road is to provide an alternate route for commercial vehicles, so whether light, medium, or even large commercial vehicles to traverse the different areas, especially the Port of Manila here. And obviously, the project is part of the 11.5-kilometer NLEX C5 link, which already connects the expressway to Medyo Toro Face in Quezon City and other parts of the metro. And it's going to cater to almost 45,000 motorists daily and supposed to be cut the travel time from Mindanao Avenue to Commonwealth Avenue from 45 minutes to just 10 minutes. Won't that be nice? Saves a lot of time. And rather than, be tired by the time you come home, you still have energy to do other stuffs here. Anyway, according to NLEX Corporation President and General Manager Luigi Bautista, he mentions, let's see here. What was his statement? There you go. So the construction of the 2 billion expressway section will be a welcome news for NLEX commuters who currently face daily traffic gridlocs in the congested portions of Mindanao Avenue. So again, obviously the goal of constructing road networks is to decongest the traffic here. Now, is it the only solution to benefit, everyday citizens? Now, obviously this benefits the businesses tremendously. Now, how about for individual citizens? Isn't isn't it high time we focus more on improving our transportation system rather than rely on vehicles to get us from point A to point B, which would be more cost effective and more beneficial, so that people would be encouraged to use public transport rather than use private vehicles, save on fuel, expenses, and it helps our economy and builds other businesses. Similar if you look at developed nations like in Hong Kong, where in their metro system is self-reliant, doesn't rely on government funding. And then you have, Japan or even Taiwan had, vast networks of rail system to transport millions and millions of people every day nationwide, right? Anyway, uh, so question is, how long will this project take? So that's always the question here. Will it take a year, 2 years, 5 years, or more? So I don't know. That's just my take. Typically projects here in our country takes years or even decades. And can we shorten it? Is it possible? But here's the hoping. Anyway, finally for our last story here, we have Panasonic's partnership with Tesla, which had been for almost more than a decade, has now suddenly been severed, which is find it kind of interesting. So what's the reason here? According to article here at Forbes.com, Panasonic, which has supplied Tesla with obviously lithium battery, which is what they're known for manufacturing, amongst other things, for the battery packs for the car manufacturer here. Now, question is, why would they suddenly stop their relationship here? So, let's see here. So, what's interesting here, so Panasonic has just unloaded its Tesla share of the fiscal year, and not just only a small portion, but the entire lot that we're talking, according to Nikkei Asia. So, it amounted to almost $4 billion, 3.9 billion. And their statement, according to Panasonic, they're going to use the proceeds of the sale and redemption of investments to find new investments for the company. Does it mean they're not invested anymore in Tesla? Well, based on their action, it just goes to show, right? Now, obviously, what's interesting, Panasonic is still going to continue to be a partner for Tesla here. Now, obviously, Panasonic has proved to be a particularly valuable partner, obviously providing them key technologies like the batteries as mentioned. And it supplied even greater quantities of lithium-ion battery cells for Tesla vehicles. So working closely with Tesla engineers to modify chemistry, obviously to tailor fit for their actual use, for vehicles, for long use, for different types of environment and so forth. But obviously Tesla has been dealing with other problems with their, car problems and so forth. And Panasonic has also worked with Tesla with making its Gigafactory in Nevada, as well as in other states in Buffalo, New York City. And question is, I'm highly more suspicious, why would they sever their relationship in terms of selling those shares? Now, what's interesting here, they're still going to continue with their partnership and supply. Obviously, that's big business for Panasonic. And does Tesla has a viable alternative to find and so forth? And uh, according to Panasonic executive, they stating that the relationship with Tesla is still a business partner and that nothing would change going forward. Well, obviously, based on their action, a lot has changed already. And what's interesting, even for Tesla, it's not just the partnership with their, different companies to help them produce more vehicles. Is, the problem of manufacturing vehicles is not very easy, as just goes to show for Ford and even GMC or Toyota that have been in the industry for several decades or more than 100 years. And Tesla has been dealing a lot of issues, a lot of recalls recently. They had to recall several vehicles in the United States with problems with their braking issue and so forth. Now, their factory in China, they have to recall almost 300,000 vehicles. And the issue now is not just the braking problem, but the cruise control safety issue. So it's kind of alarming if you think about it, regarding, the accidental touch of the gear selector, and then inadvertently an accidental acceleration, which is you do not want to encounter a sudden acceleration. You can hit an object or you're on a very precarious position, which could be deadly, which is, what's going on here. And typically, this affected the Model 3 vehicles, which was imported. Then you have Model 3 vehicles as well and Model Y that was built specifically at Shanghai. So meaning whether it's a process problem or there's a parts problem, they should have caught onto it rather than wait for 300 vehicles to be produced later on, or were they so much in a hurry to reach the certain quota to compete with other car manufacturers. Obviously in China in particular, actually there are a lot of electric vehicle manufacturers that's competing with Tesla here, and obviously the government is incentivizing those companies to, to produce electric vehicles that can support local economy, and obviously this can drive out, Tesla in the future, even though they're the pioneers in this case. And according to Tesla, they stated that we apologize for any convenience this may cause to our car owners. In the meantime, Tesla will strictly follow national regulations and keep improving our safety protection, adamantly providing an excellent and safe driving experience to our customers. Well, shouldn't that been their priority in the first place rather than, it's just like a PR stunt for after the fact of, being put in this, you know, precarious situation, which they could have avoided. For Chinese electric vehicles manufacturers, you have other companies that are competing. You have NIO, Xpeng, and Li Auto. So they're already trying to catch up where Tesla is right now. So how long can they stay hold and then having to deal with this backlash from, poor quality control from their vehicle, which is, kind of concerning if you think about it. I mean, I like the technology for all its benefit, but if a car is not sound, it's not safe, why would I convert from a regular combustible engine and use what do you call this? I use electric vehicle. There's too much risk, right? I mean, it's not as if riding or driving a regular combustible engine is not risky enough. But you have to give the benefit of the doubt, right? But based on what's happening currently, well, leaves something to be desired. Well, hopefully they can do something and improve on their status here. Anyway, that concludes our episode for today. Thanks again for watching. Come back again on Wednesday for more business update. And if you enjoyed watching these types of videos, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. Also, I leave the link in the description below if you want to check out the whole full article here. As always, I'll see you in the next one. Take care.